Hello, everyone. This is the Insomniac GM, and today I want to talk to you guys about DCC Dungeon Crawl Classics. Dungeon Crawl Classics was created by Goodman Games, and the actual core book was published in 2012, but they were creating adventures before then. Now, Dungeon Crawl Classics was inspired by reading all the books in Appendix N. What is Appendix N, if you're not aware? It is the section in Dungeons and Dragons where Gary Gygax wrote down all the books and whatnot that inspired him. Well, what they decided to do was read each book and take that and try to create their version of D&D from all that. And I will say this book is a beefy boy. It is almost 500 pages, actually a little over. And most of this book is actually spells. So we'll go into it more, but there is no setting for this RPG exactly, but it does have it's more of a low fantasy setting where it's more medieval time and whatnot. You could easily change the rules to make it more high power fantasy, but that's what it's intended for. Now, setting though, you can easily homebrew your own setting, or you can actually go and purchase some of them. Now, what are the mechanics of this game? The mechanics use the same 6 stats as Dungeons & Dragons: Strength, Dex, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. However, they got a 7th stat, which is Luck. You can spend Luck to increase your dice roll. And with that, you can actually improve your spells and that. I will get to that, but I want to also cover the dice this game uses. It uses the same set of dice as Dungeons and Dragons. However, it also uses a D3, a D5, a D7, a D14, a D16, a D24, and a D30. This can be used for fighters, for instance. They may have one attack that requires a D20, and their second attack may use a D14, making it a lower chance. Now, with this game, your rolls really do affect what happens in the game. Being a martial character, there is a fumble table that has different effects. There's a fumble table for everything else. But where the biggest highlight to me for this RPG is the magic. Now, magic in this game, each spell takes up a page or two. And it has this whole effect of, if you cast a spell and you roll this number, this is what happens. Let's actually just randomly go to a spell, and we can turn to... Okay. Let's go a little bit earlier. Okay, so we got Word of Command. So if you roll a 1 through 11, you fail. But if you go all the way down to 32, I'll just read this to you guys. The cleric can speak a word at all targets he can see. He can choose to exclude up to 10 targets per caster level, but otherwise all targets within line of sight are affected. The same command applies to all the targets. Targets of 3 hit dice or loss are automatically affected. Higher level targets each receive their own save, the cleric may combine the word of command with a gesture that clarifies its intent. For example, attack or go with a pointed finger. The cleric's voice is magically amplified such that all targets can hear him. If a target fails its save, it must obey the command for a number of days equal to 1d7 plus CL. The target receives a new will save each morning. But if you look at, if you just got a standard success, the cleric can speak a word at a target within 30 feet. If the creature fails its save, it must obey the command for a number of rounds equal to 1d6. Now, that's just one example of one of the spells. I've seen spells in there like Enlarge Person, where if you roll the highest outcome, the person becomes colossal. If you get just enough to pass, they grow like a foot. Now, also with spells too in this game, they everyone can cast spells in a different manner. So you could have everyone in your group playing, say, a wizard, and they all know the same spell, but one person, every time they cast it, they get hungry. Another person, when they cast it, they forget something else, or someone else forgets. There's another one where, the person starts sweating blood. There's these ribbon effects to the spells, and it makes everyone feel a lot different. Magic is so impressive in this game. It's probably my favorite magic system with how in-depth it is. Another thing too is there's failures. Now, if you fail at casting a spell, something bad can happen to you. Your spell could backfire. So you could be trying to command someone, and all of a sudden your arm turns into a crab claw, and it's stuck that way permanently unless you undo it with magic. So you want to be very careful on when you cast these spells. Now, there are 7 classes in this book. There's the fighter, the martial, the mage, the rogue, and the cleric. And then you also have the halfling, the elf, and the dwarf. Now, each time you level up in this game, you have a different title. Really quickly, I can show you an example of the titles. So we go into cleric. So one thing I did state before is it's based on your alignment. In another video I mentioned this. So based on your alignment determines what your title would also be. So say you're playing a chaotic cleric. At level 1, you're a zealot. But when you become a level 5, you're high priest. But if you're a neutral one, you become a druid. It's all based on that. So instead of explaining to people I'm a level 4 druid or level 4 cleric, you could just be like, well, I'm a judge. And this brings me on to another fact with the class options. With Dungeon Crawl Classics, each player starts off with 4 characters at level 0. And they're supposed to do an adventure. At the end of the adventure, whatever characters are left, the player chooses one of those characters, and they become adventurers. And they get to level that character up to level 1. So you start off with nothing, you become a lot more important. I am so excited to play this game at one point. I hope to get to play it soon. But one idea for a campaign I do have, because of this whole magic system, is I know there's a crawl magazine that has rules for splitting up race and class, and I was thinking of having the players all play elves and run a campaign where time is just going by so fast in the game. The players aren't aware of it because they're elves and They live forever, or they live so long. So they may go to a town, and the next time they go, they find out, like, oh, 30 years have gone by. And I'd like to use the magic to show how the world advances from that time. I highly, highly recommend this game. I won't say it's my favorite. I will say right now I'm not sure what my favorite RPG is, but the game is a lot easier than it looks in here, and the art is like amazing. Like, you got comical art, you got like you have comical art, you have serious art. There's a big mix of it. But character wise, like, to give you an example of how in depth this is, from page 104 and on, that's all pretty much for the GM. I mean, yeah, there's wizard spells and cleric spells, but other than the players, like, just looking up their specific spell, the DM, like, he should be knowing how the magic system works in the game and whatnot. So all the actual character creation rules are all before that. And if you want to count those parts as part of the players, that's after 301. And on is all like magic items, monsters, adventures, etc. But I would recommend trying to play this. There is also another version of this game called Mutant Crawl Classics, which is set in a apocalyptic game. It's gonzo. It's not really fantasy from my understanding. Maybe one day I'll buy it. I'm on the fence about getting it, not because I don't think I'll have fun, but I gotta try playing this game first before I get a copy of it. So, if you've ever played Dungeon Crawl Classics, please tell me in the comments your experiences with it. Share your stories. What adventures have you played? I'd love to hear it. That's one thing I want to do with this YouTube channel, is I really want us to share our stories and our experiences and grow this community where we all start throwing ideas at each other. And I appreciate that. Well, till next time, you all take care.